Hey, Lark and Rose here. We still have tickets available for the Dallas screening of the Jones Plantation this Saturday, August 26th. It's a matinee. It's like 3 in the afternoon. The link will be in the description below. I'll be there. The director will be there. Number of cast members will be there. So you can check that out below. This is sort of related to that. I see people commenting, and I've mentioned before that on places like BitChute, it tends to be a troll magnet because people who want to just whine and complain and do so anonymously tend to do it in places where it's like harder to block them or mute them. And I don't even know how that works on BitChute or Odyssey and stuff like that. Or maybe there is no such function. But so partly I want to acknowledge that some people are just going to be whiny complainers no matter what, because that's their personality and that's what they spend their time doing, just trying to tear things down and complaining about stuff. But there are people who are already voluntarists themselves who constantly bicker about the fact that, we're doomed. The world's not going to get it. People are way too stupid and they're too attached to their enslavement and yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. Now, I don't want to make fun of them too much because I can sort of sympathize, because there is a lot of mental inertia in the way of people actually questioning things. And that can appear as if they like the belief system they have and would choose it again even if they understood all the options. Except that's true of absolutely nobody. Nobody would choose statism. I don't care how mentally dependent they are or stupid or whatever else. Given a free society, no one would go, you know what I think I need? Somebody violently controlling me and stealing my money to spend it on things I don't want and forcibly controlling my choices in a way I don't want. Nobody wants that. Now, there are a number of people who would love to have a leader to blindly follow, as demonstrated by lots of churches and organizations and all that stuff. But there's a difference between somebody wanting somebody else making their decisions for them and wanting somebody else violently dominating them. Nobody wants that. Unless you're talking about S&M stuff, but that's kind of a different category. But I see people commenting, and I've seen people comment this in a bunch of contexts under a bunch of videos and articles and stuff. But I've seen them commenting it under the Jones Plantation, you think people are just going to see this movie and suddenly have an aha moment and understand everything? That's just ridiculous. Well, kind of and kind of not. First of all, it's weird to me that so many people who themselves went through a gradual, uncomfortable transition from the statist authoritarian garbage they were taught to letting go of that and understanding self-ownership and non-aggression and voluntarism. They, despite the fact that they and all the other voluntarists they know pretty much went through that slow process, they talk as if, I talked to this guy for 5 minutes and he didn't change his mind, so it's hopeless. Did you change your mind that fast? I didn't. I took years. And I know a bunch of people who did it a lot faster than I did. But this idea that there's just a switch, that I'm going to talk to this person, they'll go ting, ding, and suddenly in their head, they've completely given up statism and they've completely, outgrown and done away with all the authoritarian mythology they were ever taught. Now they're all the way, purely enlightened voluntarists. That happens never. Now, there are a number of people I refer to as default anarchists who I think their instincts are already there. They just don't necessarily have the words or the concepts to sort of put it together into a coherent philosophy. It's just sort of they don't nearly trust authority. They don't nearly feel obligated to bow to these crooks. So a lot of people are sort of on an instinctive level pretty much all the way there, and it doesn't take much on the intellectual level for them to think about it and go, yeah, that, obviously. So some people do it pretty dang fast. Most people go through a journey, but a huge number of people have told me that they remember a particular thing that started them on the journey. It didn't finish the journey, but it started them going, this is interesting, and then their leading themselves down the rabbit hole, so to speak. Like, I've had people say that about my video, The Tiny Dot, silly little animated thing with a bunch of circles, and that's it. A bunch of people have said, that started me on my journey to completely escape statism, which is kind of funny because it's just a dumb little animation. It doesn't even explain voluntarism. It just shows the representation of the tiny number of people that all these, this huge throng is bowing to and paying tribute to. But even just seeing that, for some people, makes them go, why do we do this? Like, we hugely outnumber them. Why do we feel... And as soon as their brain has started pondering in that direction, then they take themselves the rest of the way most of the time. Now, it helps to be able to give them videos and articles and books and stuff once they're interested. Them having the resources to actually learn about these ideas is really important. But to me, that first step, the thing that makes them go, something's wrong here, that's the hardest part. Because once they're in that mindset, they do it themselves. Now, a lot of people have told me that the dumb little animated version of the Jones Plantation from 12 years ago or however long ago it was, I don't even remember, started them on their journey. Watching that little animated thing ended up making them into an anarchist. It didn't do it by itself, obviously. It doesn't even explain voluntarism, and neither does the movie. It doesn't even explain the answer. It just shows the inherent insanity and evil of the situation, of the current problem, in a way that most people have never thought about it. And I know a bunch of people have told me that just being able to see the insanity behind the system makes them go, yeah, something's fundamentally wrong. It isn't just we elected the wrong guy last time. Something's like really, really off. And then they start to dig into it. And I know there's going to be a huge number of people that get that out of the Jones Plantation movie because it's way more in depth. So, is anybody going to walk into the theater a total statist and walk out a total voluntarist? No. And nothing does that. Like, I've had some people say that they, read my book, The Most Dangerous Superstition, and it made them into a voluntarist because they totally gave up the superstition of authority because they could see how it's just laid out, how obviously insane it is. But those people were almost always already headed in that direction such that they would bother to read a book. Like, most people aren't going to read a book on political philosophy or a book on anything, for that matter. If somebody's to the point they're thinking about it, there are certain resources that are good for that. And I'm really proud of my book, The Most Dangerous Superstition. If somebody hasn't questioned it, they're just going about their lives and minding their own business and trying to, live their life and take care of their family and all that. And they're trying not to think about philosophy and politics because, that's just some obnoxious noise over there and they're all a bunch of corrupt crooks, but I really don't want to think about it, and I want to just, get about my life and doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I totally sympathize with people of that mentality, but they're the ones whose view of reality is sort of stuck in that because they don't want to look at it, because they expect it to be some ugly, confusing mess, and they're like, well, other people can figure that out. Other people understand politics and the legislative process and the constitutions and all that. Whatever, I'm just going to live my life. And that's completely understandable, but for them to get nudged out of it, they need to have a reason to rethink that, to look at it and go, yeah, this might be fundamentally messed up. Not just there's some corruption and, bickering about details. And the Jones Plantation movie is absolutely going to do that. And I can say that with certainty because I've had a lot of people tell me the Tiny Dot started them on their journey. And they'll remember that 5 years later, this stupid little animated thing I did that was an idea I put together probably in an afternoon. A bunch of people have told me, yeah, the Tiny Dot started me on my journey. A bunch of people have told me the animated version of the Jones Plantation started them on their journey. Bunch of people have told me that the little animated thing I did called If You Were King started them on their journey. And of course, I mostly hear from people when they're telling me stuff that I made that helped nudge them in their direction. But of course, there's tons of stuff that other people have made that have started people in their direction. Like a number of people point to The Story of Your Enslavement by Stefan Molyneux before he sort of fell into alt-right unprincipled BS, it's a really cool thing, and it started a bunch of people. I also really like the animated thing called The Philosophy of Liberty. I actually, a while ago, I redid the music for it, and that's on my channel, the version that has my music to it. Just a simple animated thing that I think is so brilliant. And a bunch of people, including Amanda, point to that as a thing that really sort of knocked them off their comfortable assumptions. And it's pretty basic and clear, and it's not that long a presentation. There's no words. Yeah, I mean, there's writing, and there's like simple animated pictures to represent stuff. And it's just so brilliantly clear and perfectly presented. And a bunch of people have seen that and go, whoa, that totally like nudged me off. And I've had a bunch of people, like a number of people have told me that my stupid video called I'm Allowed to Rob You started them on their journey. And they remember that like 10 years later, where a silly video that I made ages ago, like sort of spur of the moment, another one that took me like a half hour to make, where I basically do what government does by way of the Constitution, which is we just made up the power to rob you and we wrote it down. So now, and like I did several stages of like, well, now I'll write it down with fancier words and maybe I'll get a few other people to sign it. Now do I have the right to rob you? Because that's all the Constitution is. Some scribble on a piece of paper and somebody said Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes. Oh, really? Says who? You're just some guy. You're just saying, yep, these people can rob you now. Oh, okay. Wait, what? So my dumb little video, I'm Allowed to Rob You, a number of people have told me that started them on their journey. So it's not about, is this movie going to get people to the conclusion? No, it absolutely is not. It doesn't even explain the conclusion. It doesn't even describe the conclusion. It doesn't even philosophically describe the problem. But it does show it in such a way that it's pretty damn hard to miss, and it's pretty damn hard to deny that what you see depicted in the Jones Plantation movie is a pretty, accurate allegory to what we're in right now and how the system actually works. It's not designed to give people the end of their philosophical journey. It's designed to give people their start. And that's true of a lot of stuff I've done. The little videos, little animated things, whatever, going over the years, it's just supposed to get people to go, that's kind of interesting. Like the tiny dot, which just represents some statistical realities about the number of taxpayers compared to tax collectors, compared to how many politicians are demanding our money. Just showing people something that makes their brain go, yeah, this is weird. Well, the Jones Plantation is just this barrage of about 100 different things that can make people go, oh, ooh. So when people are sort of like pessimistic about it, first I'd say, like, the goal isn't to have, we're going to give somebody a philosophical treatise so they understand it all by the end of the movie. Like, that would be the most boring movie. It would also be 73 hours long. Nobody would watch it. Wouldn't do any good. Starting them on their journey is the goal. But also these people forget that they did their own journey that way. And that the starting point was like the crucial moment when they started to question things. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you watch the Jones Plantation and you think, I know something better than that for getting people to start questioning their view of statism and reality, okay, use the other thing. I don't. I don't know of anything better starting the journey. Now, I know lots of books and videos and explanations that are very useful, for me and a bunch of other people. In fact, from authors going back a zillion years, like Our Enemy, the State by Albert J. Nock, and The Discovery of Freedom by Rose Wilder Lane, and, The Law by Frederick Bastiat. There's a ton of stuff for the people who decide to start that journey. But the starting the journey is something that freedom advocates have been pretty bad at for centuries, like getting normal people to start to question it where they want to read a bunch of stuff and think about a bunch of stuff and see debates and see discussions and understand it. But they need that teaser. They need the thing that starts their brain working. And I think the Jones Plantation movie is going to do that to just a drastic degree. And now it's out. We made a stinking movie, and now we're trying to get it in front of the bigger names to talk about it. because, again, doesn't do any good if people don't see it. Like, it's not going to change anybody's mind or start them on their journey if they don't see it. And they're not going to see it if they never hear about it. So that's where we need, like, you guys, you know, whether you have no audience, whether your audience consists of, well, my friend and a coworker, cool, that's fine. That's how most things that go viral, that's how that happens, is normal people talking to the people they know. But if pro-freedom people have this doomed thing of like, no, it's hopeless, they're never going to wake up. First of all, not only is that inaccurate, it's also really arrogant coming from a voluntarist who was a statist before, which is almost all of us. There may be a couple exceptions. Almost all of us voluntarists were statists before. And, I will speak for myself, I believe stupid stuff. I believe things for which there was no rational justification, and there was just this convoluted set of excuses. Nothing like a coherent, consistent philosophy. I believe that crap. It took me a long time to give that stuff up. And that's true of a whole lot of voluntarists. So for you to say, yeah, the rest of the world can't learn, but I can, because I'm super smart and they're too dumb. Like, no, they're not. Even if you are super smart, which, you know, I don't know who you are, so maybe you are, maybe you aren't. They're not too dumb to understand it. They just haven't started the journey. Or in some cases they started and they haven't finished the journey yet. But to give up when we have the ammunition to start more people on the journey in a way that, you know, before, 30, 40 years ago, what's the likelihood the average person is ever going to question the foundation of statism? They're never going to get that from any news channel. They're going to see Fox and MSNBC and all them arguing as if that is the spectrum of acceptable ideas, and all of them reinforce the statist insanity that we need my guy on the throne bossing us around and taking our money. No, we need my guy on the throne bossing us around and taking our money. If people aren't exposed to it, they never think about it. And so it's a little bit frustrating to me that a bunch of people, again, I'm not even the main guy who made the movie. I wrote it, but Andrew did a ton of work. Doug, his friend, did a ton of work. You know, the cast and crew did a ton of work and suffered through a fairly heinous shoot in 20-degree Mississippi. So a bunch of people went through some serious hardship and worked really hard to make this exist. And if there are any freedom people out there who are just going to be like, but I'm not going to show it to anybody. Really? You're not going to put in the effort to, like, post a comment somewhere and say, hey, check out this movie. Or just some mention of it. Because that's too much effort for you. Because you already know nobody else is going to wake up. Baby. And this is where I get to the uncomfortable point where there are a number of people, and this is just a human psychology thing, there are a number of people in the freedom movement who do not want humanity to wake up. They do not want everyone to understand this. They like the feeling of being different and special, and we're in the know, and all those people out there are dumb. And I think that's a real psychological problem for the movement, because the idea of having the rest of the world understand these things and waking up doesn't make you special anymore to be an anarchist or a voluntarist, because now everybody understands it. So anybody being bitter and pessimistic and not even literally lifting a finger to help spread the word about this or anything else, like if you decide, well, I've seen the Jones Plantation movie, but I think this will do a better job, okay, then spread that, whatever. Spread whatever you think is going to do some good. But if you're not spreading anything and you're sitting in a corner whining, it might be because part of you cares less about having humanity outgrow statism than it does about feeling special. And that's one of the reasons that I've said for many years, I think statism is doomed largely in spite of the freedom movement, not because of it. Because we're still just people, and you have this stupid psychology stuff that gets in the way, and you have cliques forming and all this. You know, I'm all in favor of debating the actual principles and trying to get that right. But when people just fish for random reasons to bicker with each other and, you know, form cliques and I hate that guy, that has nothing to do with actually, like, having the ideas be correct, then it's just a pathetic waste of time. And unfortunately, that describes a lot of the freedom movement. So I actually think that as this movie spreads, a lot of normal people are going to be spreading it more than pro-freedom people. Because normal people will see it and go, whoa, this was interesting. I'm going to show it to some other people. Like, what do you think of this? Even if they haven't decided what they think of it or how much they think it matches reality today, because I think it's good enough by itself to make normal people go, whoa, that was thought-provoking and cool, and I'm going to, like, mention it to other people. And I expect that at some point, because we're, doing the podcast circuit and seeing how many people we can get to talk about it to get it out there, there will come a time when a bunch of normal people who are statists right now will be talking about this and spreading about it and having interesting discussions, while some in the freedom movement will still be going, it's hopeless, I'm not even going to talk about it, I'm just going to hide in a corner. In other words, statists are going to be doing more to help the cause of freedom than a number of voluntarists who've just given up. And again, I kind of sympathize, because there are reasons to think if you don't understand the psychology, people can look really stupid if you try to explain something simple and they come back with some irrelevant tangent. And, we get into that in Candles in the Dark, why that happens and how to get around that. But, I mean, literally all we're asking people is mention it. Like, hashtag Jones Plantation. Hashtag we all live on Jones Plantation. Little mentions if you deem it worthy. And like I said, if you know something better than this to mention to people to get their attention, okay, mention that. That's fine. You could also mention this as well. Like, it doesn't have to be, nope, I'm only going to mention one thing for the rest of my life. But it is a little frustrating to see how much of the freedom movement seems to be more focused on being different than on fixing the world. And it's kind of sad to see. But that's just the reality of humanity, and that's the reality of any movement, whether their cause is righteous or stupid or anything else. People just kind of tend to do that. So, yeehaw! We haven't even sold out the Dallas screening yet, which is coming up on Saturday, and the link is below. And, if people can't do that much, like, okay, I'm going to wait around till people outside the movement have an interesting discussion. And it's funny because some people in the movement are going to say, well, don't talk to Russell Brand because he once dated somebody who was the granddaughter of a Rothschild. It's like, shut up. Russell Brand is talking about things that get people thinking and doubting. Is he an anarchist yet? No, although I have seen him use the word, and I saw him bashing the concept of authority in and of itself recently, which was fun. Don't go to Joe Rogan because he believes this and he had this guy on it. Just, okay, if your goal is don't talk to anybody, then just stay out of the way. But if your goal is helping drag humanity out of the insanity of statism, I think the Jones Plantation movie is a pretty damn good way to start a lot of people on their journey. And you don't have to make the movie. Somebody else made it for you. So now you have it, so you can just put it in front of people. And so I hope more people will do that. So I'm going to see some of you in Dallas this Saturday. Link is below. It gives the address of where it is and all that, and shows you how to buy tickets. I'll be there. Amanda and I will be there. Andrew, the director, will be there. Guy who plays Mr. Jones will be there. I believe the guy who plays Charles will be there. I hope so. He's awesome. Keith. And I'm not sure who else, so I don't want to promise other names because I'm not sure. But I will be there, so I will see some of you there. And I do understand that, you're probably not going to want to spread it around until you know what it is. So the first step is see it yourself. And then decide if you think it's a handy way to get other people started on their journey. Not finished, just started, because that is the most important part of the journey, is the first step. And I think this movie is going to be the first step towards actually understanding humanity for a whole lot of people. And I'm looking forward to that. Yeehaw.